Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Speak. Today, we are going to be going over part 2, chapters 2 through 4 of The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Today, I have Riley here again with me. She's actually going to be starting off with part 2 of the backstory. She's going to be going through some of the terms and things with you guys, and then I will take over a little bit, and then we'll do a little bit of discussion afterwards. Before I get started, I want to remind you that tomorrow we're going to have a live from 4 to 5. We'll be discussing the pros and cons of TikTok, and we'll also be going over a few more discussion questions if we don't have time today. So to get started.
All right. So we're going to start going through chapters 2 to 4 of the backstory and kind of a summary and some things that the author is discussing here. The summary is what children need to do in childhood. The author examines the changes in childhood brought about by the introduction of smartphones and social media. He uses a thought experiment to illustrate this transformation, comparing a pre-2007 world to the smartphone-dominated reality of the present, when both adults and children are constantly engaged with their devices. The author identifies 5 metrics crucial for healthy human development, which are slow growth childhood, free play, attunement, social learning, and sensitive periods during which specific experiences must occur. So the slow growth childhood is that humans have a unique pattern of growth characterized by rapid growth in early years, a slow period during middle childhood, and a growth spurt during puberty. This slow growth phase allows children to absorb cultural knowledge and skills essential for adult life. This extended childhood period provides time for learning and mastering the social and cultural practices of human societies. The next term is free play. This is defined as a self-directed and intrinsically motivated activity, and it's fundamental for developing social, cognitive, and physical skills. It involves activities like running, climbing, and role-playing games. And these things teach children how to navigate their environment, resolve conflicts, and build social bonds. And in contrast to that, modern screen-based activities often lack these benefits. The author emphasizes that play involving physical risk is particularly valuable as it teaches children to manage real-world dangers. The next term is attunement, and this refers to the synchronous face-to-face interactions that help children develop emotional and social skills. These interactions, beginning in infancy, involve mutual gazing, facial mimicry, and playful exchanges that build deep emotional connections. The rise of smartphones, though, disrupts these crucial interactions, with many parents and children are distracted by their devices, and that leads to weakened bonds and impaired emotional development. The next term is social learning, and children learn by observing and imitating others, which is a process guided by what are termed conformist and prestige biases. The conformist bias leads children to adopt behaviors that are common in their social environment, while prestige bias drives them to emulate those who are highly regarded. Social media platforms exploit these biases by creating an environment where popularity and visibility often trump genuine skill or virtue, and these potentially lead children to adopt behaviors that are not beneficial in real-world settings. It's like a make-believe social ladder. Our next term is sensitive periods. The author discusses the concept of sensitive periods, these windows of time when the brain is particularly receptive to certain types of learning. Puberty is a critical period for cultural learning, for example, when experiences shape identity and social understanding. The exposure to social media during these years can influence a child's development, often in detrimental ways. So that was chapter 2, and now chapter 3 summary is the discover mode and the need for risky play. The author explores the critical importance of unsupervised, risky play in childhood. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm starting to read Alexis's part, and so she is going to take over reading this summary.
I apologize. But like she said, this is chapter 3 summary called Discover Mode and the Need for Risky Play. The author is going to explore the critical importance of unsupervised play, risky play in childhood for healthy psychological development. He contrasts two recent contradictory societal decisions, which are restricting children's real-world exploration due to perceived dangers, while allowing unsupervised access to the risky virtual world. I'm going to go into a few terms, starting with the real world and the virtual dangers. This is the overprotective parenting, which increased despite declining real world dangers. The author points out the rise of online threats, such as sexual predators, which are more prevalent and acceptable due to the internet, or accessible due to the internet. The lack of proper online safeguards contrasts starkly with the intense supervision imposed on children's physical activities. And then going into unsupervised play and risk management, the unsupervised outdoor play equips children with essential skills for handling risks and challenges. Haidt argues that this type of play is crucial for building physical, psychological, and social competence, which helps prevent anxiety. He introduces the concepts of discover mode and defend mode to explain how children's brains adapt to their environments. Discover mode, activated in safe and stimulating environments, fosters curiosity and learning. Conversely, defend mode, triggers by perceived threats, induces anxiety and cautious behavior, which is something that I know I can relate to. Discover mode versus defend mode, getting more into it. Humans, like other mammals, have evolved to switch between discover mode and defend mode. The behavioral activation system, which you can see as BAS, or discover mode, turns on in safe environments, encouraging exploration and positive emotions. The behavior inhibition system, which you can see as BIS, or defend mode, activates in threatening situations, focusing attention on safety and danger. Chronic activation of defend mode, common in anxious individuals, hinders learning and growth. And then going on to the impact of parenting styles, this is modern overprotective parenting often keeps children in defend mode, increasing anxiety and reducing their ability to handle risks. Haidt contrasts this with a more relaxed parenting style that encourages independence and risk-taking. This leads to more resilience and confidence in children. He also argues that the unsupervised play helps children learn risk management and resilience through direct, low-stake feedback. And then off to risky play as an antidote to anxiety. Risky play, such as climbing trees or engaging in rough and tumble activities, provides anti-phobic effects, helping children overcome fears. Haidt cites that studies show that children who engage in risky play develop better risk assessment skills and are less likely to develop phobias, which was something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the anti-fragility and development. Children who are inherently anti-fragile, meaning they require exposure to challenges and stressors to develop strength and resilience. Overprotection can hinder the development of critical life skills, making children more fragile and more anxious as adults. The author argues for a balance between safety and exposure to manageable risks to promote healthy development. And then I'm going to switch it off to Riley. She's going to be covering Chapter 4.
Okay, Chapter 4 summary is the puberty and the blocked transition to adulthood. The author examines the critical period of puberty and its impact on brain development, emphasizing the importance of appropriate experiences during this phase. Puberty and brain development. The human brain reaches 90% of its adult size by age 6, but undergoes significant changes during puberty. And this period involves the pruning of neurons and synapses, which eliminates unused connections while strengthening frequently used ones. Myelinating, the coating of neuron axons with insulating material, increases the speed of neural transmission. These processes make the brain more efficient but less adaptable as it locks into its adult configuration. This phase is marked by heightened brain plasticity, making adolescents more vulnerable to stress, but also more receptive to positive interventions. And the author kind of talks about this as like a kind of like, it almost reminds me of like putty, where you can mold it to however you want it to be.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I feel like what he's talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example I can think of that helps me understand these terms a little better.
Yes.
That you can, it's very moldable during puberty.
Mhm.
The next thing he talks about is experience blockers and safetyism and smartphones. The author identifies two major experience blockers that impede healthy development during puberty: the safetyism and smartphones. Safetyism, or the overemphasis on protecting children from physical and emotional risks, it deprives them of essential experiences needed for resilience and competence. The term safetyism became prevalent in the 1980s and 1990s, leading to increased adult supervision and reduced opportunities for independent play and risk taking. The second one is the smartphones. They represent the second experience blocker. While they provide access to vast information and social connections, they also replace real world interactions with screen based experiences. The author argues that the virtual world cannot provide the same developmental benefits as face to face interactions, which are crucial for tuning up the social and emotional parts of the brain. The next term he discusses is the rites of passage, and he discusses the historical importance of these, which guide adolescents through the transition to adulthood. These rites, found in many cultures, typically include three phases: a separation from childhood, a transformative transition involving challenges, and then reincorporation into society as an adult. Such rituals help adolescents acquire knowledge, skills, and social standing necessary for adult roles. The next term is modern challenges. These modern secular societies have largely abandoned traditional rites of passage, leaving adolescents without clear milestones marking their progression to adulthood. The rise of smartphones and digital media has further obscured these transitions, as virtual environments lack age based thresholds and structured developmental experiences. I think that was so interesting to read because we all see adults who are just really struggling to know what they're even supposed to do. Okay, am I an adult? Am I not an adult? Like,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize that it was connected to the cell phone use and these rites of passage.
Yeah.
Really
It's
interesting.
it kind of goes along with the identity, kind of like the
Yeah.
identity crisis.
Right.
Like, who am I?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The next term he talks about is the need for structured milestones. To support adolescents' development, the author suggests reintroducing structured milestones that provide clear pathways to adulthood. These milestones should involve increasing freedoms and responsibilities, helping adolescents build resilience, competence, and independence. And now I'm going to pass it over to Alexis to do the analysis.
Yes, I'm going to do the part 2 analysis, where the author structures his analysis in these chapters around key features of development. He creates a comprehensive framework for understanding the impact of technology on social and psychological development. He breaks down childhoods into categories like slow growth childhood, free play, attunement, social learning, and sensitive periods. Haidt clarifies how modern technology has affected each. For instance, Haidt questions the impact of technology on the building of interpersonal skills. What happens to child and adolescent development when daily life, especially social life, gets radically rewired in this way? Might the new phone-based childhood alter the complex interplay of biological, psychological, and cultural development? This is found on page 53. This inquiry sets the stage for exploring how the natural processes of growth and learning are compromised, hinting at the deep-rooted consequences on future generations' mental health and emotional well-being. The author emphasizes the necessity of unsupervised risky play for children's psychological development. He addresses changes in childhood play. He contrasts the increasing restrictions on children's physical activities with their unrestricted access to the digital world. Haidt argues that the unsupervised outdoor play is crucial for building resilience and confidence. Unsupervised outdoor play teaches children how to handle risks and challenges of many kinds by building physical, psychological, and social competence. It gives kids confidence that they can face new situations, which is an inclination against anxiety. This can be found on page 71. This metaphor that he used is a play of this metaphor of play as an inclination against anxiety. It underscores its preventative power against mental health issues by illustrating the vital connection between physical freedom and psychological well-being. Additionally, Haidt advocates prioritizing real-world experiences over early digital immersion, highlighting the developmental benefits of physical play. We should delay their entry into the virtual world and send them out to play in the real world instead, which can be also found on page 71. This directive reflects the border argument that unstructured outdoor activities are essential for healthy growth, contrasting sharply with the isolating effects of screen time. Addressing societal and parental roles in child development, Haidt discusses how changes in culture and parental behaviors have shifted towards overprotection, which terms safetyism. This approach, combined with digital distractions, is an experience blocker, preventing essential real-world interactions necessary for healthy development. The author highlights the importance of timely and appropriate experiences for healthy brain maturation. The brain transitions from child to adult depends in part on getting the right kinds of experiences at the right time to guide the rapid rewiring of the adolescent brain, which can be found on page 98. This emphasizes the concept of experience expectant brain development, where specific experiences are necessary to trigger and guide neurological growth and adaptation. Further, the author explains the dual engaged nature of brain plasticity during adolescence. When increased malleability can lead to both vulnerability to stress and potential for positive development. He notes heightened susceptibility to stress in adolescence is a specific example of the fact that puberty makes the brain more malleable, or plastic, you can say, which can be found on page 100. This insight underscores the importance of managing adolescence. Experiences carefully to mitigate negative stressors while promoting beneficial growth opportunities. Haidt communicates significant psychological concepts by using striking imagery in his terminology, such as discover mode versus defend mode. This contrast illustrates how different environments can either foster or hinder a child's development. For example, humans, like other mammals, have evolved to switch between discover and defend modes. The behavior activation system BAS, or discover mode, turns on in safe environments, encouraging exploration and positive emotions. In contrast, the behavioral inhibition system BIS, or defend mode, activates in threatening situations, focusing attention on safety and danger. Chronic activation of this defend mode, common in anxious individuals, hinders learning and growth. Similarly, Haidt's metaphor compares smartphones to quote-unquote cuckoo birds, which can be found on page 102. This further illustrates how digital devices usurp and dominate the children's time and attention, crowding out valuable activities. This image conveys the invasive and displacing impact of technology, emphasizing the need to balance screen time with real-life interaction and experiences. Incorporating a historical perspective, Haidt highlights how how modern changes have disrupted long-established cultural development processes. For example, the rites of passage has long guided adolescents through the transition to adulthood, marking adolescence' acquisition of the knowledge, skills, and social standing necessary for adult roles. However, modern secular societies have largely abandoned traditional rites of passage, leaving adolescents without clear milestone marking their progression to adulthood. Haidt advocates for reintroducing structured, significant milestones that involve increasing freedoms and responsibilities to help these adolescents build the resilience, competence, and independence they need. And I think that's where we're going to stop here for today. We are going to be discussing a few questions from last week that we missed, and then we're going to be going over a few questions from this week to kind of wrap up today. So I know last week we got through questions 1 through 3, I believe.
I think so.
So pulling up those questions. Haidt approach is collaborative and evidence-based, but critics argue that focusing solely on technology might overlook underlying socio-economic or cultural factors contributing to adolescent distress. How would you design a research agenda to differentiate the effects of digital technology from other variables? And what methodologies, challenges would you anticipate in evaluating casualties?
I think looking at this question, I think the biggest thing you'd have to I feel like do a poll, or not a poll, maybe I don't know. I said to properly assess where adolescent stress is coming from, it'd be interesting to take a survey of Gen Z and determine where they're spending a majority of their time.
For sure.
Because wherever you're spending most of your time is probably going to be the thing that is going to have the most stress in your life.
Right, the root.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if you did a survey of a lot of Gen Z individuals, and I think we'd find a large percentage of them have made social media and technology a high priority in their life, which is a major factor in bringing unwanted stress to their lives.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like that'd be a good starting point, because he's talking about these other things. Oh, what if it's finances? What if it's family? What if it's relationships that are causing stress?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you compared all of those things and then compared it to the social media use, I think it would skyrocket compared to these other things.
Based on the evidence that we've already read about.
Yeah.
It's very clear that social media is a big factor in these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to add something.
Okay,
good.
I think if one was serious about this, they could do a research of those communities that are low socioeconomic poverty level type of neighborhoods, because I think they would find that there's probably a significant increase in social media than in residential areas of middle income or upper middle income, where there are far more options for these kids.
Mm.
And I don't think it'd be difficult to do. I mean, in our own community, it would be easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think you could get a little bit better read on just how dependent kids from lower economic families allocate their time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That also goes into family dynamics, going in, taking a survey and seeing the poverty levels of some people. I think you'll find a lot of the time maybe a weaker family dynamic. And I think this research is based on the United States. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think the issue is the family dynamics not having as much structure. It's very normal to have the online structure that we do now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it can be related to family dynamics, what your parents are doing, what you guys are doing as a family every day.
Yeah.
Literally the dynamics of everything.
And the value of what does your family place value on?
For sure.
Is it on relationship, or is it on, everyone just has their free time, everyone has their space? What's more important in the family dynamic?
Right. I know I see a lot of the time around here a very low structured household, not all the time, but I think, like you said, there is lack of opportunity, and that's where we're finding ourselves having an overconsumption of social media.
Yeah.
I don't know if it said anything about some solutions, but I know like in the summertime, a lot of the time they can go outside, like
Mhm.
kids can go outside and have that play. But I always wonder, like in the winter, when it's too cold to play outside, what these families could be doing differently other than a screen.
Mhm.
And it's hard for me to think about sometimes because that's how I grew up. Is
Okay.
If you couldn't go outside, you stay inside and you could watch a movie.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
you can stay on your phone or something. So I think maybe some more interpersonal relationships happening within the family,
Mhm.
and maybe more structure on board games or
Yeah.
just routine family time weekly
Right.
can be something that we'll see a lot of those numbers go down.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think that's a big one. My
Yeah.
family, especially obviously during the winter, it's so hard to have things to do other than a screen. But we do play a lot of board games,
Mhm.
card games. And honestly, for me, like when I think of the wintertime, obviously it's depressing, but that it's a really good time to slow down and like do like hobbies. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I know some people do crafts with their kids
Mhm.
and they like have a specific craft they're going to do each week.
Yeah,
Or
that's awesome.
something like that. Or they have a time where they read books or I don't know, they come up with these different things to do. That way they're creative and they're learning and kind of forming these hobbies and things. Or if they have any kind of musical instruments,
Oh,
practicing those or anything. I don't know. There's lots of different creative ways to involve your family in things that's not a screen.
Yeah. I think a big thing is our screens are so overstimulating
Mhm.
that those, things like board games, they are stimulating, but not compared to the phone. And so,
Mhm.
like, kids are having a hard time sitting
Yeah.
and paying attention to those games or sitting for a long time
Mhm.
and being a part of it because it is kind of a low stimulation
Yeah.
of our brain, which kind of relates to the research a little bit. But like it said, our brains are moldable and
Mhm.
printable, especially at a young age. So I think making a change now while children are young
Mhm.
is a big deal.
Yeah. That's the best time to do it, I think.
For sure. You think we covered that question pretty good?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then going into the last question, it asks, in the context of viewpoint diversity, a principle central to Haidt's work, how can educators and institutions foster open yet responsible debate about technology roles in youth mental health, balancing the suppression of harmful content with the danger of overregulation and censorship? And something I put is in line with the principles of viewpoint diversity, educators and institutions can foster open yet responsible debate by encouraging evidence-based discussion.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the time our ideas can be on TikTok. Like it's kind of like TikTok is kind of like an example. We see something and we use TikTok as such a big search engine. A lot of social medias can be considered a search engine,
Mhm.
but it's just like, is that information credible? Are we actually learning, or is it actual just what they can call brain rot
Yeah.
that we're reading? And I think evidence-based discussion can squash a lot of that out.
Mhm.
Like just this book alone makes me think completely different about social media.
Mhm.
But you get on social media and have the debate, and you're getting these points that make sense, but they're more on the emotional side than
Right.
thinking with the front part of your brain.
Yeah. With logic.
Yes. But I think a lot of the time our conflict resolution as well is really hostile sometimes, especially over the social media. And so I think our next book has something to do with this. But like when people disagree, a lot of the time it's automatic like hate on social media. When I think disagreeing should be it is more of a neutral thing. Like allowed to disagree that you don't like the color yellow and I think the color yellow is the best color in the world, and we can still go have lunch afterwards.
Yes.
Because that a disagreement doesn't change, I guess, the priorities in life, specifically with social media.
I mean, don't they still do debate classes in high school
Yes.
that like teach you how to defend your point without attacking the other person
Right.
and being able to prove them wrong without making it like you can't talk to them anymore?
Right. It's a diplomacy, I think is what it's called, or
Diplomatic discussion,
yeah,
something.
diplomatic discussion, being able to be diplomatic about it and
Yes.
talking respectfully,
Mm-hmm.
and then exposure to multiple perspectives on technology and youth mental health is something that is a diverse thing that I hear all the time. And it is kind of a point in this book too. We hear all these things online, so now we're being overprotective in real life with our children, when really a lot of it is just, I don't want to say like it's not fake all the time, but you're getting all this information and it's like an overload in your brain.
And is it happening in your area? This could be something happening
Right.
in an inner city, lots of crime, lots of things like that. If you live in a rural community, is that all that stuff actually happening in your community
Right.
all the time?
And it's not in your control, especially online.
Yes.
Those things are going to happen. Well, not all things should happen, but those things do happen. And now we're hearing about everything around the world, and you're in this one place, and it can change your perspective on a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
And then you go to talk to somebody who's not on social media, and they're like, whoa, what? Like, how did you get there?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I am at fault at this too. Like, I need to take a step back
Sure.
and focus on my own perspectives and what makes sense for me because of everything I've heard on technology and on the social media.
Yeah.
Another thing is rather than silencing the controversial viewpoints, the focus should be on teaching the critical thinking, media literacy, and ethical reasoning. Because like I said, I still talk to people and they're like, did you know this happened? I'm like, whoa, where did you get that from? And they're like, well, I seen it on this social media. I was like, well, you might want to fact check that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a thing I see all the time, actually. And then just so students can evaluate the claims for themselves, I see some people doing that, like the fact checking the sources of their whatever they're finding, but sometimes I have to do that too. I see something on TikTok and I automatically want to believe it because you open the comments and everyone else believes it, but then you go fact check it and it never happened.
Yeah.
It's like completely pulled from like
that's
a
wild.
little tiny part of something.
Yeah.
So fact checking and having that media literacy, I think, is really important when it comes to this. To suppress that harmful content.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wrote, starting with the parents in the home, the author is encouraging parental involvement with the technology allowed in the home.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's just this is forced upon them. Like they have a choice of what comes in to their home and how much access they have and how much access their kids have.
Right.
They're in charge of that. And so he highlights the benefits of keeping technology to a minimum and upping the time spent in free play.
Yes.
And so I think public education, when we talked about this last week, that they could set standards of keeping phones in lockers or at home or somewhere away from the learning time.
Right.
And with all technology, there's pros and cons. And so I think you were right in saying that like there needs to be discussions on this stuff. It needs to be talked about on the benefits and the negative consequences.
Right.
And I think it needs to be like parents and the teachers need to be on the same page of coming together and talking about this in order to make a plan. It's important for real evidence and research to be done on the effects of technology on adolescents and for it to be talked about. And I also think I said last week, it shouldn't be an expectation of childhood that you get a phone.
Oh, right.
Or you just have unlimited access. It's like, that's actually not a rite of passage.
Right.
As much as we want it to be, oh, I got a phone. All my friends have a phone. That's actually shouldn't be a rite of passage. That's a privilege. Right. Yeah.
And a lot of the time we want to think like this is a lot safer, because that is a lot of the argument.
Yeah.
This is safer. Like my kid's inside, nothing can harm them physically, but that takes away from their. I know what I know. It's scary.
Yeah.
To be on social media, and it takes away from a lot of the cognitive development that
Yeah.
they need to be the human they're supposed to be, or
Yes.
the adult that they can be.
Yeah.
I think that suppresses a lot.
Yeah.
And then going into our new questions, I actually do not have the questions pulled up in front of me. I
Okay.
actually don't have the page.
I have them.
Read that off. That'd be great.
Yeah, I can do that. Question 1 here. If you notice that your schoolmates spend a lot of time on social media and seem to be struggling with anxiety, how might your school work together to create phone-free zones or times? What potential problems could come up, and how could you address them to make everyone feel included and safe?
Something that I put is the biggest thing is not just phones put in pouches in your classroom, because I know some teachers try to do that, or in a box in the classroom. But I think the phone needs to be completely taken out.
Yeah.
Because it is a point that even if your phone is in reach or in the area, it distracts from learning, and you're constantly thinking about who texted you or something like that. I know it was a big thing when they first started putting phones just on the pouches in front of the classroom. I know kids were freaking out. I have to text this person. And that is a lot of the argument that you hear is, well, I have to text my mom, or, somebody might be in the hospital and you need updates about that. However, those things are distracting you in the moment from your current environment. And so I think phones in lockers, I know book bags, it's not very popular to carry those around anymore because of another point is school shootings that we have and the protection of that. And so I think keeping phones in lockers and being able to check them between passing periods maybe is something you can do to, what's the word? Negotiate.
Sure.
With that, because a lot of the kids like, well, we have to have our phones with us all the time. That's a big argument. So I think checking in between passing periods would be something to give something to them on that side, because they're not in class at the time.
Right.
And then, like I said, a lot of the time is we hear, oh, what if there's a threat or there's a shooting at the school? How would I contact my parent? However, I think the phones could potentially be more dangerous in a classroom than having them in a locker. Because if everyone's phone was in a locker and everyone was in their classrooms without a phone, it'd be less distracting to the potential threat.
Right. You wouldn't hear ringtones or vibrations or anything.
Right.
And if a child would want to call their parents, you wouldn't want the parents coming into the school while there's an active, person there wanting to hurt people. It's like, it would be smarter.
Parents would flood. It could block emergency services.
Yes.
And I know that the school will also have that covered.
Right.
They will contact parents and things of that such. That's the biggest pushback I've heard with the phones is the safety. Another thing I think is an exception to that rule is if you have a medical issue like diabetes, and you need to check your phone. I think maybe having some special plan in place for that student individually can be an exception.
And communication between student, teacher, parent, saying, hey, this is what's going on. These times he or she may need this phone for these things.
Yeah. Maybe specific times or, I know there's
for meal times.
Yeah. I know there's a notification that goes off. Maybe you can look for that. That would be an appropriate time to check your phone.
Yeah.
But that's just how I answered question 1. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think most of it was just collaborating with the parents and teachers. And I also put, I don't know if this would even be a reality, but people used to just go to the nurse's office or the office and call their parents if they needed something throughout the day. So I don't know, you keep your phone at home, and if you need something, you go, because there's always going to be a phone at the school. Wherever, it could be the principal's office, it could be wherever it's going to be at, they have access to it. So making that more of a being the first thing you do. Hey, if I need to call my parent, you go to the phone. you don't have it with you. You need to go to it, and
Right.
you take turns, and it's not just a constant 24/7 access.
Right.
That way, because you really, if you're doing school, you're there. If you're at school, you're there to learn and do school.
Exactly.
So if you need something, you go to a trusted adult
Right.
to access a phone.
Mhm.
Even though that sounds so strange in our culture, but that's what they used
That's what
that's
to
what
do.
they did.
Yeah.
And they were fine.
Mhm.
It worked fine.
It really did. And that's what's in place now. Like, if we need to call our parents, even though our phones are just in a box in the classroom, if we need to call our parents, we use the school phone. We're not allowed
Yeah.
to use our phones.
Okay.
So I think it's a really good thing that we need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It just causes or creates less of a distracting environment, I think.
Absolutely.
And then going off into question 2.
Yeah. The author argues that the decline of unsupervised outdoor play is making children less independent and resilient. If you lived in a neighborhood where safety is a concern, what creative solutions could you and your community develop to bring back safe, unstructured play for kids?
I put a few things, but I think one of the big things is connecting with parents.
Mhm.
Parents in your neighborhood. I don't see that very often anymore.
Not at
People
all.
even knowing what their neighbors' names are.
Yeah.
That used to be a really big thing, but I think if you're in a neighborhood of children, getting to know those parents and who the kids, parents that your kids are playing with,
Mhm.
maybe having like a neighbor lookout for designated play areas,
Mhm.
Parks, skate parks, basketball parks,
Mhm.
public pools.
Yeah.
Having parents be the lookout to just look out for their kids if they live next to the park or next to the pool.
Mhm.
And then also having those designated areas to where your kids can go off and play, and if you needed to go check up on them or tell them something,
Mhm.
you know the areas they would typically be in.
Yeah. They're not just running around the street.
That I think
Obnoxious.
helps. Yeah, that helps parents, and then also a group of kids is going to be a lot less likely to be in danger.
Oh, sure.
If they're at the designated areas and they're with a group of their friends,
Mhm.
or your parents just know what areas you're in.
Yeah.
And then another thing I put is a designated playtime.
Oh, sure.
Something my mom used to do for me is I'd come home from school and she'd still be at work, but I could go out and play at the playground that was really close to me until I heard her whistle, and then I would come back. I'd come back home, or the lights would come on.
Mhm.
That's when I would come back home. And so having that time frame of a curfew maybe could keep the kid more structured, even though they're going to, because that's the parents' concern is too unstructured.
Right.
But that's also the argument is unstructured play. So you can allow your kid to have that unstructured play, but they still have some structure because they have to come home at a certain time. And then obviously teaching kids the basic safety skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing boundaries, how to get help if you need help, situations that may be unsafe, those basic things.
Yeah.
I think are important. So just, I guess, safety literacy.
Yeah.
Outside unstructured play literacy.
Yes, I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a lot of those on there as well. And something else I had was when I was younger, and even with my younger cousins now, instead of because we didn't live in like a neighborhood. So if you live kind of more rural or something like that, having older cousins or older siblings go, and they can do their own thing, but also the younger ones could be doing something else. Like if the older kids are playing football or something and the younger ones are at the playground, that way there's still someone older there watching,
right?
But they're not telling them what to do. They're kind of just doing their own free play. These ones are doing their own free play, but they're all together.
Right.
And I think that can give some parents peace of mind if they know there's a trusted older cousin or sibling or even just an older friend who is there keeping an eye on them.
Yeah, that used to be my mom's rule. If it wasn't somebody older with me, I always had to have a buddy with me. But I could still go out and have that unstructured play.
Right.
And I also knew at least one parent because I lived in an apartment complex, so I knew at least one parent from each building.
Yeah.
Building I would play around, and it just created a more safe and unstructured environment.
Absolutely.
And I think I turned out okay. So
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Is there anything you wanted to add before we end off today?
No, I don't think so. I think kind of covered it.
I think we're gonna save questions 3 through 5 for tomorrow, just because we're cutting short on time. But before we end, I wanted to add one personal application I've done for myself to help myself with my social media addiction. So I have recently this week, I've added a screen limit on my social medias. I know YouTube doesn't necessarily fall under social media on your phone, it'll fall under entertainment, but I added that too. YouTube
There
and
you go.
Netflix. So that all has a screen limit of 2 hours. You guys don't want to know what it used to be. And then I think a suggestion a parent could do for their children or even themselves is adding a screen time on their socials, and then also replacing that, now you don't know what to do because you don't have social media. You're replacing that with live play and maybe productivity or, because like chores or playing not a video game.
Board game, card game.
See, it's stuck in my head. But then also adding maybe like a downtime or making sure the phone's out of the room at a certain time at night, I think can be helpful too.
Yeah. For me, personal application is kind of just like that. I've started or trying to turn my phone off like an hour or two before bed. Just so I'm wound down for the night. I'm not still high on my social media and phone screen and like the light and everything. It affects how you sleep.
Yes.
So I've been trying to turn it off earlier and either spending that time reading or writing or, talking to my family or something before I go to bed. And I think that would be an advice for parents is if you have a phone or your kids have phones or electronics, to turn them off at least 30 minutes before they go to sleep. I think it'll really help them sleep better and be calmer as they're going to bed rather than watching this really high intense stuff and then trying to go to sleep after that.
It's hard, and that's a good suggestion. Yeah, so much needed one. But I appreciate everyone for listening today. Again, tomorrow from 4 to 5, we're going to be going over the pros and cons of TikTok and then also going over these discussion questions. I believe we will have a guest speaker tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And I will see you next week for chapters 5 through 6, I believe.
5 through 8.
5 through 8, my bad. All right, thank you.